What's happening, my friends? Joker XP here with some Diablo 3 gameplay from Season 4. I'm going to show you some clips using my Juliana's 6-piece monk, the non-crit chance build with broken promises. But today we're going to talk about a major new development that happened in Diablo 3's Season 4, which is that Blizzard has effectively banned players that took part in the Hellfire Amulet exploit. And this includes players like top Twitch streamer Gabinator, who is already on a state of warning for taking part in the Blood Shard exploit back in Season 3. So I'm extremely satisfied in the job that Blizzard is doing by enforcing certain actions against different accounts. And there are different levels of punishments being enforced. Now this comes directly from Blizzard's own post on the battle.net forums. Accounts which were likely utilizing this exploit by accident were effectively pardoned. Accounts which were found to have used the exploit to a beneficial but not excessive degree were suspended with warning. And finally, accounts which were found to have used the exploit excessively were permanently banned. This includes users who actively promoted the use of this exploit. Now, before I get into the whole ethics about exploitation and cheating, let me just say that it seems like in every season in Diablo 3 on PC, there always seems to be some sort of game-breaking exploit that either ruins the season completely or almost ruins it, like in the case here with Season 4. For a while, a lot of players in the community felt that Blizzard was just letting this go, because starting back a year ago with Season 1, there was the whole Paragon power leveling exploit that let players amass ridiculous amounts of Paragon levels in no time. And Blizzard did nothing. They didn't enforce any bans, they basically just patched it and let it go. It wasn't until Season 3 that we actually saw the first set of bans being enforced. But even with these bans for the Blood Shard exploit, the community still didn't know where Blizzard actually stood in terms of known exploits and how they went about punishing them. I mean, think about it, the first wave of bans happened into Season 3. There was already Season 1 and 2 that had its own share of exploits where they were basically just patched and not really talked about, or not at least enforced upon by Blizzard. Now in Season 4, many weeks passed since the very beginning of this season, and the Hellfire Amulet exploit was already known before the season even started. So because Blizzard took so many weeks to address it and actually enforce bans, I think a lot of players in the community had this false sense of security in taking part in this exploit. Now, to their credit, I'll say that Blizzard cannot handle a situation like this just by clicking one button. Obviously, they had to go into thorough investigations on a case-by-case basis, as they said themselves in their own post. And this is why it took them several weeks to start enforcing these bans to players. Now, glitches happen in every game. Some of them are funny, some of them are just very unexpected, consequential glitches, like for example what happened to me in Destiny back in the winter, where my movement speed was slowed down by almost 100%, and it gave me a great disadvantage when playing in this raid. However, other glitches are not fun and not silly in that manner. So when you have a game like Diablo 3, which is a PvE dominant game, but has this layer of competition because of seasons and because of the existence of leaderboards, taking advantage of an exploit to help you gain a competitive edge in those leaderboards and in this competition is exploitation, and by definition in this context is cheating. Now, modding a game is completely different from exploitation, and I say this with respect to single-player games like Skyrim. In Steam, there are all kinds of mods that you can imagine in Skyrim. Some of these mods actually help you out in certain rather difficult quest lines, like for example, finding all the stones of Berenzia. In the regular game, you'd have to explore the entire map to come across all of those stones. But in the Steam store, you can just download a mod that adds objective markers to all of those stones across the map that helps you to easily find them. Now, how is this scenario in Skyrim not cheating and not exploitation? Well, very simple. Skyrim is a single-player, non-competitive game. There is no layer of multiplayer or competition involved. And in games like this, like The Witcher 3, like the Batman Arkham series, where there is no layer of multiplayer at all, there are no mechanics of competition involved in those games. Therefore, mods to those games are not cheats in the sense of they are not exploitation to give you a competitive edge against other players. When you have a competitive game, the easy example being first-person shooters like Battlefield 4, where you have not only a layer of teamwork, but you're also competing against other players on opposing teams, and where your personal skill is measured directly with all these metrics about your KD, your score, your accuracy with different guns. The use of aimbots in that game, or in any first-person shooter for that matter, is undeniably exploitation and cheating. And in Diablo 3, although this game is PvE dominant, the nature behind seasons is inherently competitive because of leaderboards. The whole incentive, if anything, for creating a seasonal character really is to give you a shot at creating a brand new endgame build and compete with other players to ascend ranks. So any exploits that are involved in helping you get a competitive edge in this context is cheating. That applies not only to the Hellfire Amulet exploit, but also to botting and botters, which is another topic for a different time. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, botting in Diablo 3 works like this. You pay for a bot that plays the game for you while you're away. And that bot has a number of objectives they can do. They can do gold farming, they can join rifts, they can basically look for gear even. The whole purpose is mainly to increase playtime and to help you gain gear while you're not actually at your computer playing the game. And you could easily determine this simply by looking at a player's total playtime. If you looked at Gabinator's seasonal character over the first 2 weeks, his playtime told us that he would have gotten 1 hour of sleep a night and played this game 23 hours a day straight every single day. It just didn't add up. It didn't make sense. So either he was sharing accounts or he was botting. And so I bring these examples up to you because I'm trying to make the point here that there is no such thing in competitive gaming as ethical cheating. It doesn't exist, and there's no gray area here either. It's very clear cut. When you're taking part in any sort of competitive multiplayer game, whether it's a first-person shooter or it's a PvE game with that added layer of competition like in Diablo 3, taking advantage of exploits is simply cheating. And there's no moral argument, there's no exception to the rule that's going to make the case for why that should be allowed and why that's okay or morally acceptable. So it sucks, and it's too bad that players in the community, even well-respected long-time members of the community who I'm not going to name here, also took part in this cheat. As Blizzard stated in their recent post, their whole goal is to maintain an enjoyable and fair gameplay experience for all gamers in Diablo 3 and all of their games. So if you're a member of this community and you've been playing fairly and you haven't taken part in these cheats and exploits, do your part to continue to promote fair gameplay for all gamers across the board. Like this video if you liked it, and thank you guys for hearing out these thoughts today. I'll see you next time.